Hello and welcome everyone to Authenticity. I'm Anna Toothman and my guest today is Julie Dhara Roberts. Welcome, Julie.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks for having me. Hi,
Oh,
everyone.
of course. It's been a kind of like on my bucket list of things, Julie, and to have you on my show. I
Thank
am
you.
honored.
Pleasure. A pleasure
Yeah.
to be here.
There's so much that fascinates me about your unique gifts and what we were talking before the show and what you gift the world with your knowledge of the cosmos. And, Julie, you're known as a gatekeeper, a grid keeper, and a celestial shaman. I know that I've been called to Ondaras. The first time that I was made aware of Ondaras was through our mutual sister, Lisa, friends in Sprout, many, 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 many years ago. And then, I just thought, well, it must not be one of my gifts because I've never bought in any, and just thought, well, it's just not part of my unique offerings or what I'm going to work with. Well, I don't know what it was because time is just so weird. Julie, all of a sudden I thought, I should buy an Andara. You know how downloads work, and you have this intuition come in, and I was like, ooh, I know Julie. I'll just contact Julie. And I've been playing with them since.
Oh, hi,
This I
beauty.
got from your shop. Everybody check out Julie. I'll have the links put in um, when the show is over in the comments. And I also have these beauties with me all the time. And they like to come out and play during meditation, which is fascinating because they come out with the sacred geometry that I work with and some of the light language. And they definitely like to come out and play. I know that you have some things coming up. I want to jump into that. What's going on tomorrow, Julie, in Julie's land at New Moon Cosmic Journey with InnerSpaceVoyage.com? Let's get into it.
All right. Which part of it? All of it.
All of it. I want to get
um,
into it.
yeah, I have a whole series of offerings. I do things both in person here in Massachusetts and online. I have a online school or place that people can tune in, and I do things. So this May is a huge month, just astronomically, and the gateways that we have coming is like one of my favorite seasons for light work because the Pleiades gateway opens and the sun moves through the Taurus constellation and through the Pleiades. So I have a whole bunch of offerings coming up to celebrate and play with that. Yes, one is here tomorrow night, but there'll be a bunch of things, and people can go to my website and check all that out. Whether it's local or distance. It's like fun to be with people all around the globe. Um, the we just have moved out. It's funny to say even like, oh, this is a big alignment because it's like we're in this like layer cake of like constant. Like we said that about the equinox, we said that about the eclipse, and I said to one of my inner space client friend, Gridkeeper friends, I was like, if I said to you that the eclipse was just like the starting gun, the spark, and like this was the meat of like what we're doing this year, like because the eclipse was a lot in itself, right? Like it worked through all that. And but I feel like that was like the opening. So anyway, we have a whole bunch of things. So my offerings are really to assist people to move through, like use their own human body form energy field to work with, to be a bridge with the celestial and terrestrial realms, from cosmos to here on earth, and to be really in the embodiment mode of it, to work through the human form.
Is that
And of
what
course,
you call your what you do, celestial shaman? Is that more of
I know I've played around
rest?
like, how do we name ourselves for all these
Yeah.
things? Yeah, because like the celestial shaman I know you asked me this when we were so blessed to actually meet in person in
Thanks,
Sedona, right?
Donna.
That was
Yeah.
like so special. And it's like a beautiful, rare like connection these days. But that you're like, well, I know you do something and it's sort of like astrology, but it's not astrology. Like, what
Yeah.
exactly is it? So yes, like celestial shamanism is a word other people use, but that it's like the closest word to match what I do. Like the celestial sphere or the celestial dome is the sky. Like if we were sitting in a planetarium together, right, it would be like everything would be projected on the ceiling.
Mm.
Similarly, like we sit here on planet Earth, and the sky sphere or the celestial sphere is really that the like people that read, some people read tea leaves, or some people read, like energy fields. I feel like one of my roles is to read and watch the sky. Do you think that's me beeping? Should I shut off Facebook? Or is that you?
I'm not beeping.
Okay.
You want me to push mute and see if it was me?
No, no, no. I'm just taking good care here. I have Facebook open because I was sharing things. So maybe I'll just close it. Um, and if you're not hearing it, great, then it's not in the recording. So is that what you, so, but like basically, so what do I, so astrologers is like a beautiful art and science.
Mhm.
And most astrology, like Western astrology, is based on a fixed set of alignments and houses. We get into too much technical detail, but the ecliptic is the pathway that all the sun, the moon, and the planets follow through the sky on that celestial dome. There's like a pathway because of the shape of our solar system, right? And
Ah,
where the ecliptic, the celestial equator, is the projection of our Earth equator out onto that celestial dome. Does that make sense? Like, so
sure.
it changes of depending on what latitude you are. Like you're up in Boise, right? But if someone's
Mhm.
down in Texas, that angle of where that would be is different based on your own Earth latitude, right? So the celestial equator, so the where the ecliptic meets the celestial equator, that point is the spring equinox or the March equinox. Right?
Wow.
So astrologers fix that point in Aries, right? Aries starts their spring, that starts their zodiacal pathway.
Right.
So there's a thing called precession of the equinoxes, right? Have you heard of that or that term?
Yes, I have.
Right. So for people that are watching, the precession of the equinox, so astrology, that science and art form, fixes the spring or the North America centric fixes the vernal equinox, the March equinox, on like at a certain point, and it never moves. So it's Aries, 0 degrees, boom, and then it's a predictable cycle, right? And the dates are always fixed.
Hmm.
Um, if you go into Vedic astrology or sidereal astrology, there's other ways of looking at it that, so basically the precession is that where that fixed point isn't like actually always 0 degrees of Aries. Like it moves through the zodiac along the way. And it changes, every few years, like it processes and changes. Right. So where the sun is in the sky, like what constellation it's in the sky, is different than what astrological house it's in. Does that make sense?
It does.
So, watching things, what happened in the sky, like to me, I've just always been called to the stars, I guess, backing up. Like from like, youth, I was like, anytime
Yeah.
I'm out in the night sky, it was just this constant uh, electric, just like lit me up all the way. And it was like, stars, 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 stars.
Yeah.
So they've been calling to me from my incarnation here on planet Earth. And over the years, different things I've studied, different things have like all come together in this now. And to me, like paying attention to and sharing out like where's the sun in the sky now, because the sun codes a little bit differently. Like right,
Mhm.
all of prana, all of life force, like everything that we exist on planet Earth here, our life force really comes from the sun.
Yes.
And the sun has a different, it has a different quality depending what season we're in, what angle it is, what, I think I've never lived on the equator, but living on the equator, it's like more fixed and predictable, right? The sign. But where I live more in the northern latitudes, it changes quite a bit. So the light levels and the light codes of December are super different than June or March, or, in that way, it's like a whole different thing. So where the sun does move along this pathway, the ecliptic, and it goes through various gateways or various sections of the sky. And astronomers have defined these sections into constellations.
Mm.
So playing like the star coding, where the sun goes and what stars it's next to, and then what other, the planets move faster through the sky. So like Venus and Mars and Mercury will all like move along. So like what the sun is sitting next to, what planets it's playing with, like
Yeah.
hanging out with that day, and what constellation it's in. I just noticed that there's a different energy signature and different codes that come through at that time. Does that make sense?
Of course. And that's why I've always been fascinated to talk to you, because I've been able to track my own mood and my own energy field and the way people around me are behaving or reacting, or even maybe my perception, just to witness and just to have the know-how to see there is something to this. This does affect people, because like some people might go, oh, that just sounds like fortune telling, or this is your horoscope for the day. Kind of astrology isn't everyone's cup of tea, which is fine, because it is something that you would have to want to investigate more, or feel the calling to, or that it has to resonate, right? It's part of everyone's journey, soul's journey, on what is calling to them, especially at this time, in this now. It affects our oceans, and it affects the way we're moving through the sky. The celestial is such a big part of where we are, I feel, in ascension and our embodiment.
And it's so true. And I like full respect to astrology and the intricate science and art form that it is, but it is like a fixed science and art form too. Like
Mm.
Jupiter always means this, Venus always means this, Mars,
Yeah.
and like we're all ascending. Our planet is ascending. The whole
Yeah.
solar system is ascending, and that meaning like we're moving into a different bandwidth, different light codes.
Mhm.
So I've just personally, people always ask, well, what does that mean? It's like I feel like my job or my role is to point out when we have these alignments,
Yeah.
but not to predict or project what it might mean to any individual. Like I think individuals are looking for like oh, Pluto's with the sun, or Pluto squaring whatever. And it's like, it means this. And it's like, it's so not that for me. It means how it lands for you is so different than how it land for me. It's like, it's a doorway, but how any of us walk through it is unique and individual. Plus the planets are like, we're all up leveling, and the like planets are different. They can mean different things, like Mars doesn't always have to be a fiery, feisty, whatever it is. Like the Mars codes are refining and changing. Like just as an example, like Mars is often thought of as very masculine and very like fiery,
Right.
and then Venus is often thought of as like feminine and very
Mhm.
soft. But if we look at the planets just like how they are now, or even like what we are limited human knowing of them from here on planet Earth, Mars is actually like a water world, or has been a water world. Like on the surface of Mars, they see these like trenches and like lots of sign that Mars used to be a lot more like planet Earth back, eons ago. Um, or that hundreds, galactically back a bit.
Sure.
And Venus is actually like the hottest planet in the solar system, very fiery, full of volcanoes. So like Venus has this like masculine quality to it, and Mars has this more feminine, watery quality to it. So it's like to just to like have things get fixed. Anyway, I'd rather like play with it a different way. Does that make sense?
I
So,
love it. It's very androgynous.
well, it's because it's, we just prescribe these human characteristics to
Yeah.
things. But so in general, the like the sun is the main source of our life force and information and activation, all like our life really does depend on it. The photosynthesis in the plants that we eat and our bodies are built out of sunlight. And sunlight has this whole different quality to it. So there are some things that do flow through an annual cycle, right? There's like the equinoxes and like the placement of the sun is predictable because like in May, it will be moving through the constellation of Taurus, right? That we
Right.
know, like it will be moving through the constellation of Cancer and Gemini. That's going to happen. But then like kind of like if you cook the same dish, right? Like you make a whatever, like a lentil soup, right? Like you make it the same, like the predictable things is like what you do, but then like you can spice it up with different condiments and whatnot. So the fast moving things in our solar system are the moon, of course, that moves the fastest, and the sun across the sky. But then the inner planets of the solar system, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Earth, we're on, Mars and Jupiter and Saturn, the things that we can see move like across the stars. They move a lot quicker and they change and I call it a cosmic dance because the sun can be in May. I mean, in May, the sun will be in Taurus every year, but there's different like spices. Like sometimes it'll be with Venus and sometimes it'll be with Mars. And like, it's like they change, that changes annually. Right.
So
So
there's
like,
the variables.
so that's like, and
Yes.
there is, like you said, that it does affect us. There are very scientific, like gravitational, energetic, like if all, sometimes when this in the solar system, if like, oh, the planets group together, they pull on each other a little more, right? And the planets are spaced apart, there's like the gravitational pull is less. There's like quantum engagement, entanglement too.
Yeah.
So like we can say like, oh, May, the sun will be in the constellation of Taurus, but like this year, it's playing with Jupiter, Uranus, Venus, and Mercury are also all together with the sun. So that's like a very different vibe than like last year, Mars
Yeah.
was with the sun at that time. And the year before it was Venus was with the sun. So we go through these cycles. And another thing that's I recognize more like in hindsight. So it's like you do this year after year. I do this year after year. And it's like you get to see, like 6 years later, you just be like, oh, these are the cycles, like they're bookending cycles. Like for instance, if I like, I was really called to pay attention to the Pleiades speak to me just like on a soul level in general.
Mm.
And I think that's true for humankind because it's a very identifiable thing to see in the sky. It's like it's caught human attention for as long as we know, recorded history.
Mhm.
And it also is one of our closest neighbors in the galaxy, the Pleiades and the Hyades. So anyway, I've been called to pay attention to that. So in 2020, when I was looking at the astronomical alignments for the year, I was really called to this April 3rd, April 4th. Venus was moving like into the Pleiades. Like it actually, so the ecliptic, that path that the sun runs through, goes through the constellation of Taurus. It goes through all the zodiacal constellations, but it moves between the Pleiades constellation and the Hyades, the Pleiades star cluster and the
Right.
Hyades star cluster are both in the Taurus constellation. The ecliptic moves between them, and it has been used, that part of the sky has been used as like a lunar and solar calendar by ancient cultures. So a
Right.
lot of the temples and like stone structures that we'll see all around the globe are set to the Pleiades, their rising time or their setting time or culminations. So in 2020, I was really called to pay attention to this gateway. and Venus moving into it. And I could feel like I had this like feeling of like diamond. You know how Venus has a diamond feeling to me, but I could
Mhm.
feel this like squeeze coming. But I didn't know what that meant. I didn't have any predictions for what it meant. But I think we all know that the spring of
Sure.
2020 was quite a squeeze point for humanity, for our planet, with the pandemic and whatnot. So like that happened. And then in 2021, it was a whole different kind of flavor. Not recalling, but I think it was Mars that year. And then the next springtime, when the sun was moving through the Pleiades gateway, Mercury was with it. And it happens on like when you watch in the long lens, you can see these patterns develop. And now in 2024, I really feel like we're like bookending a gateway that opened in 2020.
Hmm.
Like there's a lot. This is like we're like this is a culmination.
A completion, maybe.
Yeah, completion. The
Hmm.
eclipse was certainly that because we had
Yeah.
that big 2017, 2024. So I think a lot of us can feel this like 2024 will have this completion quality to it for some of
Yeah.
the work we began.
In
And then I'm
2020.
watching it happen in the stars, like in the alignments. I'm like, oh, that's what happened.
Ah.
Does
I
that make
just,
sense? Like that
it
whole,
makes so much sense because, we talked about how since you were a little girl, you just felt called to look at the stars and the stars spoke to you and that, you just wanted to learn more. And that I've been that way about the sun.
hmm,
I love the sun, always have. There's something about the sun that's always called to me. And some inner knowings about our sun and the importance to have a sun in our lives. So many people are afraid of the sun and hide from the sun and, don't want to get sunburned. I get that. But I don't know. I have this relationship with the sun, the three suns are, we have a central sun and a great central sun. And I could go on and on when it comes to speaking about the sun. And I just found it fascinating. There's a lot to what you're talking about and what you're speaking of, this knowledge that has been around for eons. And I feel that only if you were privy to this knowledge, because certain events in certain creations, the opportunities for certain alignments were like go windows for creation itself. And it had to happen during these celestial events. And that's this knowing that I'm talking about. Like I have this feeling that the time we're in and the way that the planets are and for us to create at a certain level had to come to this now moment. And and I know that this because of your service work without having the words yet for me to describe some of the things that I do, which I still feel very confident and have faith that they will come. They'll be able to describe. And if not, I'm okay with that as well.
well, the sun, of course, is our local star. So as I've sort of not differentiated it, but like I think we cut our teeth or like learn how to talk light language to the sun because the sun, it's our local. Like this, what sun does is like it gets so dense in its core that it creates this fusion, and then there's heat and light, and like we get these waves of communication. Light is really just information, and it comes our way, right? And it
Mm.
like interfaces with our whole being, and then we learn that via our local sun. And then star codes are light codes too. They're just the way they convey to our human form is just a subtle's not the right word. It's just like a different thing, right? It's like sun is like so all encompassing, and like you can feel the heat, and you can like it's so direct and so close to us here on Earth that we get that. And then you like train yourself. I feel like talking to the sun
I
And
do.
then you take those,
It's one of my favorite
you
things to
take
do.
those same skills and then apply them to all these, and then that mind blown, wait, our sun's not the only sun, like all these little points of light are also suns, and like there's another little Julie and another, Aunt Anna, like on another planet somewhere else talking to their son, and like it's like that worlds within worlds thing
Yeah.
that like communicated to me at a really early age, that feeling of like we're all like there's all this, the multiverse as some people call it, right? So that, but then like how does one learn how to talk to stars? By talking to the sun.
Mhm.
Is what I feel like. That's like, because that's our, our close neighbor. And
I
that,
love that. I love the fact that what you said, and I hope that everybody heard that. Not if people don't listen or tune into this or study this kind of thing, the fact that the sun is constantly putting out light codes, and you talked about star codes and how important it is to get the morning sunlight, even for our inner clocks and where you are in the world. And there's so much information out there about how important sunlight is. And then what you're bringing to the table, I could listen to you speak for hours. Literally, I could take your course. I just want to like be your student, and learn so much. I feel like what you're offering, Julie, is incredible amounts of information. And
oh,
oh, yeah, and I mean it from my heart. And I'm just saying that there's a role, a huge role that the stars, our planets, the sun are playing and assisting in our ascension and descension, right? This
yes.
whole thing that's working right now. What is your feel? Do you have a feel of what June and May and July are bringing? I know you said you don't do predictions and you don't like to do things like that, but you felt like the end to
Well,
that we're in that bookend.
May is huge, like
Yeah.
ginormous with its, in an astronomical term. And then I want to say, like, if we talk about the sun, though, the Andaras just popped in and are like, talk about how we work with the sun. Since you started with those, this is the one that wanted to come along. But
Oh,
that the
beautiful.
sun, so, and then I'd love to talk about May and June and all that. Like, I don't
Please.
do predictions, but I can tell, the, it took me days and days and days and days just to like put in order all the things that are coming in the next few weeks. Partially because of the energies that we're in and like trying to use the linear mind and dates and all, but also just because of how much is going on. But I think first, is it okay if we pop into the Andaraville? Like, how do we use like
Please.
the Andaras? Like, one of the offerings I'm going to offer soon is called like, how do we use Andaras to talk to stars or to talk to the sun? Like, they're basically a talisman or a tool to bring, to help us, to assist us to, more directly channel and, what do you want to call it, anchoring or conducting or descending, like to
Mhm.
bringing in those light codes into our own human forms and grids and into the earth grids. Like, and the way that, Andaras are act like they are direct conduits of the light, and they play with the sun, like they interface with the sun, and they're really like time portals. Like, it changes, like you can have whatever crystal on your same windowsill in your
Mhm.
bedroom, and every month the sunlight angles it a different way, and every time of day it comes in differently, and like the facets of what come through are like morph and change, and just like they pull you and help you notice. And there's a lot of times like the human race has depended on like a glass or crystalline structure to like look through telescopes to talk to stars. And like the Andaras are like something that you have in your pocket. They like help conduct and bring through and help one communicate. I just wanted to pop through. But that's like
I
a
have I chose a green one, an emerald green one, when I met you in Sedona, when we got to connect in
Oh
person.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I take that one with me everywhere. You told me it has more of a galactic feel to it, so I take that one with me everywhere I go. This one I keep by my bedside, and I always have it with me when I meditate. And then the rainbow ones, all the different colors, I keep here in my office all the time. And like I said at the beginning of the show, Julie, nobody told me to buy these. No, nobody said you should go buy that. That's going to assist you in what you're going to need to do, or where you're going, or what's unfolding for you. Intuitively, it came in, and I was like, it happened so fast. I just was like, I need. It just came in, and I knew that it was going to assist me in doing. Like you said, it helps you ground and bring in those codes. And when they want to play, they let you know. You know,
They're beautifully bossy. I tell you, like,
yes.
I'm noticing as you hold it up, I've never noticed how it interplays with your logo and the behind you. Like it's very it goes really well with your authenticity background there. The one you
Uh,
picked. Like that triangular slash square. Like it's
it
well
called to
chosen.
me. I looked
Yeah,
through
yeah.
your shop. I tell everyone to take a look. Julie, on her Facebook page, she has links to her websites and where you can shop for these. And just look at the beauty. I've seen some of your videos of your space where you have sessions where people come in and you have all these beautiful crystal bowls. Are those the singing bowls that are all different colors? And then you have your andaras that are all different colors. That space, what is it like to be in there?
It's very high vibe. I like it here. So you were talking about you have that sun quality. So if
Yeah,
I quickly in my background, I
sure.
taught yoga and ran and operated a yoga studio for a couple decades. And then my 2012, like kind of do it differently now. Like I graduated myself from that and I opened Inner Space in like 2012, 2013. And I was like, okay, it's time to do things differently. And I was working the whole time, I had been working as an energy healer or aligner. And I wanted to do that more, like work with people one on one versus, operating a center. But I had this like things were like clients who would come to me and we'd have these amazing experiences, like, just as much me as them and like this amazing thing. And I had this like how does any of this work? This is like, that whole energy, like what's working here? What's going on? What like this prana? And I had this like, one of those reveal to me moments, like what more is happening? Like where does prana come from? Like how does any of
Mhm.
this life force stuff work? And I got this really direct answer from the sun. I was like, oh, it's like the sun and like this the room that I had my treatment room in is like had this beautiful window, and I was like, oh, like I'm just holding space, and like this is the sun that's doing any of this healing or any of this work and any of this. It was just like this next level of um, realization and like authentication about the work and how it happens.
Confirmation
So
for
I've
you.
been really like that call of like teach, like how does one talk to the sun? And it's really through like rainbows, like the sun, or how about this? In yoga training, we all had not had to, but we delighted in reading the Bhagavad Gita. Have you ever read the Bhagavad Gita?
I
They talk
haven't.
about like this a parable of like how does God or God's source reveal itself to a human, right? So like there's Arjuna, the chariot driver, and the Krishna, the God source, and then Arjuna, the human, is like, reveal yourself to me, like all of, I want to know you all the way, like source, creator, I want to know. And then the source in that parable is like, like, kind of like, you can't handle the truth. Like you can't, like it's too much, like it'll blow your circuits. So in some
Right.
ways that's with the sun too, like the sun is so magnificent and so like full that the rainbow, like our crystalline being, like our prism, like
Yep.
the sun gets diffracted into the rainbow bandwidths, so that we
In
can
our
take
in
like
our in our
sips at a
bodies.
time. Yeah. Like we can
Mhm.
take in a little bit, like I can take in the red ray, I can take in the orange ray. It's like we can take a little sip rather than like drinking from the fire hose that is the sun, right? So it's like how it interfaces with us. So I've been self-guided and solar guided to really work with people to turn on their rainbow light body. And like a
Mhm.
rainbow is like a bridge because like most
Sure.
you nice, I say most humans, just the ones I hang out with, but like most people have heard about the chakra system, right? And that like that's like kind of base knowing now in 2024, right? Whereas like, in the 1990s, back when it like I said, it was like a new, emerging information, right? But now like most people know that. And like, so what is that? Like, how does my chakra system interface and talk with the sun and activate? So when you asked about like the rainbow bowls, so yeah, the Andaras found me in like 2016, 2017 zone. And then I used them in a whole variety of ways. But one of the ways I use them for working with people, clients, either individually or in groups, is, I was basically guided to get a team of rainbow Andaras that
Ah,
they're here at Innerspace. So I've had those for a while, it took me many years to save up the funds and to like find the right pieces and to assemble that team. And I've always worked in sound coding. So back whenever in the whatever 2010 maybe, I found this gentleman who made chakra chimes. So it was like the do, it's the do re mi scale, and
right.
each one goes with the chakra. So I would always begin and end treatment sessions with that as like kind of like a diagnostic tool slash energy aligning, sound vibration tool. And I had the bowls in my field of like, I'd love to get those too. So yes, this year, last fall, I took the plunge and bought my set, and it's been like it's amazing. Like that, I had this whole moment where I introduced the bowls to the Andaras, and like now they all work, and I have I use all kinds of sound tools, but I have tuning forks and bowls and Andaras, and I also have kind of I was like came to me in a dream, but it was like shown to me. I have an octagon that like hangs from the ceiling with different colors. So it's like color therapy. A lot of this goes with the yoga. Ayurveda is the science of life. It's the sister science of yoga. And so in Ayurveda, they use a lot of, from ancient times, use color therapy, use sound therapy, use gemstones and elixirs and like all kinds of different things to help tune the energy field and align you with life. So, the rainbow light body is one of my, I don't know to call it tool, but one of the things I work with here at Innerspace to
Mhm.
light people up and to help, like, it's like, teach people about the rainbow light body, teach people about the rainbow light body is what I, have heard for myself and my role. So that's been something I've been doing for many years, and I feel like it up levels each time. But yeah, the bowls have been like,
It's pretty impressive, I have to say. When I had a glimpse at it that you shared on your Facebook page, I believe, or I went to your site. I don't remember now how I seen him at the time, but I just remember thinking, wow, I can't wait. If I'm My dad lives in Massachusetts, and so I want to go see him this year. And if it aligns, I would love to stop in and see your studio. It
you, I'd
looks
love to
magic.
have you. Yeah.
Thank
Come
you
on
so
in.
much.
We're in,
Yeah,
you don't have to tell me where your dad lives, but Massachusetts is small compared to Idaho, compared to
yeah, yeah,
California.
yeah.
You could drive
He
state, it's all a couple hours long.
he
So,
lives in New Bedford. He lives
oh,
in a very Portuguese
yeah, yeah.
community, Twin
Very
Fall,
cool.
not Twin Falls, but Fall
Fall
River
River. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
Yep.
New Bedford is all,
I do know
Portuguese.
that. And Paju. We'll have Paju Caju and we'll
That's wonderful. That's what we'll
um
do.
but that's the but that's solar, but yeah, the whole the bowls, the andaras, the sound, because it's like a sound, light, energy. They all dovetail together and work together. So it's a beautiful merge or marriage.
Yeah, and I feel like I just had this thing come in for me to say. And I feel like science is catching up to that, to this whole sound, light, color therapy, because a lot of the alternative, holistic, new technology that's coming online now is with color therapy,
Mhm.
light therapy, sound. And so here you are bringing ancient methods that you're talking about that science is now putting into technology to assist with healing modalities. And
And
it's
it's
just, wow.
yeah, that's mind blowing, and it's very tangible, like that. The energy balance like school that I went to, like you don't have to even touch. That's all vibrational. One
Mhm.
doesn't even have to touch the person or be in the same room as the person for it to work. But like we're all humans, and the rainbow is like this universal, like any I haven't ever met someone that hasn't seen a rainbow come across the sky that doesn't get a little childlike, giddy.
Sure.
It's like it brings out that quality, and it helps us. It is truly the rainbow bridge. It helps people that even aren't as familiar with some of the subtler aspects of things. It's like it's very tangible and very accessible. Like the rainbow order, like from an early age, like the just rainbow and color
Right.
helps people to ground the light work in something that's very playful and accessible.
And it's beautiful.
That too.
Yeah. How would you explain to someone, for those who are listening, because I have a array of level of awareness audience on topics of maybe esoteric or healing other than traditional medicine? One of the questions I was asked is, how do you do? My friend was talking about the Rife machine,
Mm-hmm.
and she was explaining to him that, you could do remote healing. And you had mentioned that someone doesn't have to be physically present for you to do what you do. Can you briefly explain how that works for those who don't understand that and how that would be possible?
Sure. So the energy field permeates and moves through time and space. And really, for energy healing, it's like we move into a merge state of oneness, meaning like in that field space, like whether we're in the same room or we're miles apart, it's like it's a vibrational state that one reads.
Is that the
Like wave.
quantum field?
Yeah. Like it's a good question. I know you put me on in a good way, put me on the spot. So like how does it work? How does remote healing work? Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, yeah, because people are like, how
Yeah,
that's
right. That's poo poo. That's like
you
acid,
want me
right?
to spend money on that? What are you
Right,
talking
totally.
about? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Well, I'm
since
going to
this is
describe. So, can I describe the system that I was trained? That's the best way that I can. So, it's a Satnam Rasayan, and nobody has to know what that means or heard of that. But it's basically you use your own sensitive field. Like my sensory field is what I can hear, what I can taste, what I can smell, thought, sound, all that. And in that space, you can like everything you feel, notice, and sense. If I'm actively connecting to you or to a client, to a recipient, to anything, like I'm setting my field to have all of its input data come from that client or that person. So like I'll feel in my field a ripple effect. Yeah, it does get a little, I think, into like a quantum physics, like how does
right,
things, like a butterfly flaps its wings in Massachusetts, and the air moves in Boise. Like it is like it's esoteric, but it's scientific too, in
sure,
that my sensory field has input from the world at large. And I can take that tool of my sensory field and tune it into one individual being or to a planet or a star or to a hunk of crystal, glass, or rock and listen to what it's saying to me. So one trains his or herself, their selves, to be able to listen to that and feel it impact. So like I'm not really tuning into you and your energy field per se, but I'm using my sensory field to listen with all my senses to what, and then you like kind of laser into one being or one
Mm-hmm.
body. So yeah, like from here in Massachusetts, can I tell that someone in New Zealand has their left knee, like that's the part of their body that needs to work? Absolutely. And like, can I treat their left knee even though they like, they had played a soccer game and they twisted their cruciate ligament? Like that's a physical thing, but their body, their energy field will give me that information. And then everything that is happening in your physical body has its blueprint or its basis in the field, your electromagnetic field,
Right.
light field. So if something, even things that are like an impact injury, like car accident or fall or bruise, they'll like have a residue or an impact in the energy field. And by flooding that area with more light, with more prana, which is life force, with more energy, that like speeds up the healing process of that knee or something, right? As it can be like the mental body too and the emotional body. Like we have these subtle impressions or impact craters, if you will, from stuff that happened to us in childhood, from stuff that happened to us in our last marriage, from stuff that, all that, like they're in that they show themselves to someone who's trained in this science and art form, like myself. It's like, it just shows up. So it's like where there are places, like it's literally sometimes looks and feels like an impact crater of like smushed, what we want, any of us, is for all the channels. In yoga we call them nadis, your acupuncturists would call them meridians, right? We want the life force flow to be free and even throughout our whole field. And sometimes you can just like sense like, oh, this zone is off today, or that left knee is off, or like the digestion system isn't getting the proper flow. And like you can, something one has to train themselves to do. And then yes, they should pay me for that time because like I'm really expert at that. And
Yeah.
that whole thing. But I know what you mean. It's like, how is that even going to work? And for people to take that leap of faith, that
Yeah.
that field, but that's the scientific. It's like that, like I'm using myself and my field as the instrument. Is that good? Did that work? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Because when we talk about the light body and the rainbow body, and we talk about the electromagnetic field around us, what came to mind was the information field, right?
Yeah.
This is all information around us at all times that is sending or receiving information. It's either
Mhm.
repelling it or depending where you are in your alignment and how clear you are, and what you can do. And so I can see how you were talking about tuning in and focusing on that area of the information field around this person and seeing where in the body in that information field wasn't something was off.
Mhm.
And I also got, like just trying to get it to where other people could understand how it works. Because like the way that we read the weather, how weathermen can go
Mhm.
out. It used to be they had a balloon and they would go out in a balloon and they could predict the weather. And they're always looking in the information field for weather patterns and right the way that we read energy in the body is very similar to how we read energy on the planet.
I love that. It's actually like, how like Doppler, we all like rely on the radar in our phones to like see,
Yeah.
like, oh, is it going to be a thunderstorm? Like, how does that work? The
Mhm.
towers they have, the Doppler
Yeah.
radar, they're these long, like tall towers that almost look like fire towers, but then at the top of them, they have this ball. Like basically they send out
Mhm.
water, they like send out signals to like feel for water droplets, and then they get information back. And it works just like that. That's a great analogy you just made it, like the weather radar.
Yeah. And we're
That's like,
water information. Our
yeah.
body is made of water, so there's the information. And then, you're talking about the weather and the water. It's just the visual that I got when you were explaining that.
So, and different healers use different tools. Like some people can like would see somebody's aura and be like, oh, the orange band is a little less bright than the red band, and that's how that healer might know, oh, I will should work on the second chakra or that area, like for instance. And some people are more kinesthetic, some people have audio, like we all have different clairs or different sensory parts of our sensory field that are more attuned.
Right.
Like some people are like seers, right? So
Right.
they visualize a person, and then that's what helps them. And then some people work more multi-sensorily. But there's like auditory, like any of the senses, some of them are turned on or heightened more for, people that have like the visions and like see into things have that clairsensitive, that clair turned on, or that sensory knowing turned on. But so we really listen to the universe with our whole
Yeah.
sensory field. And then like learning to use your instrument or your tool is like that healer in training or that aligner. I don't even like to use necessarily the word healing anymore, because it like implies that like you're broken and you need fixing, or it's just more just like we're in the field, we're all in the field. Like where's the free flow and where is it constricted? And then like in so you can have a physical thing that happens to your body, anything, earache, knee
Sure.
pain, organ issue, digestive thing, mental thing, and it's going to have, when you increase the flow in the background or in the blueprint, in the energy matrix and the energy field, it helps to alleviate whatever that physical human symptom is.
It really does. And you really have to experience to be the testimony to what we're speaking about, is to take that leap of faith and trust that the body is a intelligent machine, that it can heal itself. It really can. And it was one of my journeys that I had to walk through. The information came in many years ago that I was to not have any outside assistance. No Advil, nothing. And and I felt like it was. I now understand I was writing the template for that, or assisting somehow in the blueprint for that. We are getting close to the end of the show, and I didn't want to finish without us going back to this powerful May.
Oh yes, thank you.
Please.
Time. So there's a play and cosmic dance, if you will. It involves the sun, the moon, and the earth as kind of the main players. That happens monthly, right? With new moons and full moons, and the sun, the moon, and the earth are always around. The sun is moving into the Taurus constellation, and particularly this thing that the ancients called the Golden Gate of Taurus, or the Golden Gate of the ecliptic. I mentioned it. So the path of the sun moves through the star clusters between the Hyades and the Pleiades. So all the planets and the sun and moon move through that annually, that part of the sky. This year, with the sun, and when the sun moves through, Jupiter, Uranus, Venus, and Mercury are all like, they're all like clustered together in the sky in May, which, the sun conjuncting any one of the planets brings through a tremendous amount of coding and information and energy. When it happens, remember in 2020, it was uh, like the grand conjunction of Venus, I can't, my brain, Jupiter and Saturn were
I
together. Like one of
remember.
these big
Yeah.
conjunctions is an event to pay attention to, because it's going to spark a lot of human interest. That's good thing too. And then energies. So we have right now the Pleiades and the Hyades, like the sun is getting close to that part of Taurus. So there's a thing called the heliacal setting, like the last time we can see a star in the sky. Jupiter has been pretty bright and prominent in the west. but we're soon we can't really see Jupiter anymore because it's like in with the sun. So all these things, none of this that I'm mentioning is anything that people can go into the nighttime sky and see. These are all
Right.
like conjunctions with the sun. So I just want to say that. But we have on May, bring it over. I wrote it down because there's so much. Um,
Perfect.
so right now, this new moon, so tomorrow, May 7th, is the new moon. And that new moon, where it hangs out in the sky, it's gonna clip by and be with the Pleiades tomorrow. And then there's a whole bunch of activations happening with that too. The sun moving through, like kind of opens up this gateway. Then on May 13th, the sun and Uranus are conjuncting. So
And that's the day after Mother's Day.
oh yeah. So some of the planets are fast movers and some are slow movers. Pluto, Saturn, the ones that are far out, Jupiter, Neptune, Uranus, they don't move very fast. So they'll like kind of hang out in a spot in the sky. So Uranus is just like hanging out where it is and it moves really slow. So a lot of these other planets are like kind of cruising by her in their dance move. So the sun and Uranus conjunct on May 13th, and then Venus and Uranus conjunct on May 18th. On that same day, the sun and Jupiter conjunct. So basically, like one could say, like Jupiter, Uranus, Venus, and Mercury are kind of close together, and then with the sun. So the sun moves through and will conjunct Uranus on the 13th, Jupiter on the 18th, and then Venus on June 4th. So like that, just the solar alignments is a lot for like our human selves to integrate. It happens to be that all this is happening while these things are moving through that golden gateway. And to me, Taurus is all about like an embodiment, that like bull, like earthy energy. It's not just to me, to like a lot of people. So
Sure.
that Taurus is about that. But so like all these things happening, and then on May 18th is a really big day, or like astronomically, because we have the double alignment of Venus with Uranus and Sun and Jupiter together. And then 2 days later, the sun moves right into that gateway right next to the Pleiades. And that's a whole beautiful thing too, because to me, the Pleiades really remind us and invoke in us our own star essence. You were talking about you talk to the sun. Like so Pleiades, like in their
What day was that again?
May 22nd.
May 22nd, because when you brought that up, I got a lot of movement in the left top of my
Nice.
head. So when you were talking about that a lot, it was very attuned to what you were saying. So May 22nd.
Is when the sun moves right as close as it gets to the Pleiades is May 22nd.
Mm.
But it's all like all these gateways are, they kind of move across the sky and then through, and there are these like peak moments where they're as close as they can be, and then they kind of dance. That's why I call it a dance. Like things come up close and they move away. And when they're like in that close moment, it has like this effect of like opening up like some like a turning a cylinder lock, and like a bunch of key codes kind of come flooding through to us. So I find that when the sun moves through the Pleiades, it's this, we're rebirthing ourselves as our star self. Like we're coming through, like my star beingness comes through more brightly. And I know you said we're almost done, so I could talk for hours on just that one topic, but I'll keep going.
Me too.
So Jupiter, so this year, I feel like one of the star players is like Jupiter's a slow mover, and it takes like 12 to 14 years for Jupiter to complete a cycle. So whereas like Venus moves through this golden gateway every year, so does Mars, so does Mercury, so does the sun. The sun and moon move, sun every year, moon every month. Jupiter hasn't been in the Pleiades for a decade or more. And that's a potent window. And before Jupiter moves into the Pleiades, it's like cross-coding with Venus, and it's cross-coding with Uranus, it's cross-coding with the moon, like there are a lot of these like doubling up alignments. And what it's bringing to us, or what it means, is I feel like it's all yet to be seen. Like we'll flow through it together and then compare notes. Like what happened during that? but I'm just like calling out. Oh yeah, then Venus moves to the Pleiades on May 26th. So it's like basically like, so some of them move a little bit faster and like one overtakes the other, but it's basically the group that I mentioned, the sun with its spicy neighbors of Jupiter and Venus and Mercury that'll move through the gateway. Now, Uranus is kind of fixed where it is, and it won't be moving through the Pleiadian gateway until 2026, something like that, because it's such a slow mover. So Jupiter is moving in like that. Another big date is June 4th, because we have the Sun and Venus, Jupiter with Mercury. Mercury's aligning with the Pleiades. Like Mercury and Jupiter basically conjunct at the Pleiades. So
Yeah, I
that's
was
like a
looking like the
sparkly
new
day.
moon is June
June
6th.
6th. Yeah, the moon
Yeah.
is, and the moon comes through too. So it's this like between May 4th and June 4th, or May 6th now and June 6th.
Yeah.
There's this whole
Mm.
cosmic dance move, and I'm not like, to be commercially, I'm going to be like sharing a whole bunch about this because I've like have so I'm like kind of sharing it out in little bits and pieces, because the whole thing of it, even for me who loves to geek out on this stuff, it's just like a lot to digest all at once. So I've like set out a
Have to
path
put it
for
out a
me where
little
like
at a time.
my like kind of social media sharing and some of the classes
Yeah.
I'm offering here and the sessions, I'm just gonna like piecemeal it out for folks so it makes sense. So if anyone wants to, follow along on my things, I'm on Facebook. I have a website, I have things, but I'd love to like, I'll be talking about this stuff a lot in the next month to like, because that's like my true, like my soul calling. And this time of year really lights me up quite a bit. I like the May
Well, it's
gateway.
lighting me up right now. It's definitely calling me more and more and more to tune in. I'm always checking in on your pages and what you're sharing. It's fascinating how we also are, our focus is shifting. The more and more we embody our true essence and form.
And this wants to come through too, if we have time to say this. Like the Pleiades, if you read any myth, so the Pleiades are very recognizable because of how they like sparkle in the sky. And cultures, ancient cultures from all around the globe, partially too because of where it is in the sky. You can see it up north, you can see it at the equator, you can see it down south, like it's like very visible. And any of the different star or the mythologies about the star cluster, it's humans that have been turned into stars. Whether
Mm,
it's the Native Americans with the, that I can't think of the name of it now. The Devil's Tower in Wyoming. Like that's it. Like the bear chases the girls. It's like seven sisters or seven maidens or sometimes
yeah.
seven brothers. It's like this team of seven humans that are either they're running away from Orion the Hunter, or they're running away from the bear, or like Zeus is trying to bed down one of the sisters, or like all these mythologies. But it's like in order to like save the sisters, they're put up in the sky as stars. And that's always like, there's something about that. That's like
It
for
really
us.
is because we've seen it in the movies as well. They always say if we'll look at the same star at the same time in some rom-com, or they
Yeah.
always allude to some sort of, that we are the stars in the sky ourselves.
And like a lot of the way showers that you and I both hang out with, be it
Yeah.
Lisa or like Sandra Walter, like they're those way showers are talking about the earth turning on its star qualities,
Yeah.
right? And like we are the earth. It's like it's us too. It's like, our my human being can become like a star, and like how else do we like make the world a better place or radiate more light into the world? Like how do we take our own light from inside and shine it out into the world and
Shining.
make the world a better place? That's turning on our star quality, right? Like not
Yeah.
just like radiating light and goodness and warmth and love out into the universe.
It's been a true, true pleasure, Julie, to have you on today. Everybody, tune in, go to her website, innerspacevoyages.com. Do your research. I'm grateful. I know that like you said, I'll see you either on Sandra's events, or, maybe again in person. I look forward to, maybe I'll even sign up to one of your courses or classes that you will be giving. I look forward to more connections and maybe perhaps some collaborations always. I love
Thank
you,
you so much for
gentlemen.
having me, and thanks for everyone who's watching this live or replay. It's such a pleasure.
Have a great month of May, everyone, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye. Look for the replay on YouTube. Bye-bye.